Hi, I'm Mary Ullmann Japhet. I'm a board member at SanAntonioSports.
And I'm Jenny Carnes, President and CEO of SanAntonioSports.
And thanks for joining us for Game On, our podcast that's celebrating SanAntonioSports' 40th anniversary. We love sharing the stories of individuals and issues and organizations that are shaping the sports scene in San Antonio. And our guests today are really awesome. They are Olympic track coach and San Antonio Sports Hall of Famer Rose Monday, and one of her athletes, Alanah Yukich. Did I get that right, Alanah?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. A very newly minted Olympian. And among her many accomplishments, Rose was the head women's coach for USA Track and Field at the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. Alanah will be making her first Olympic appearance for Australia this year in the 400-meter hurdles. And Rose and Alanah, we're so glad you could join us this morning. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
You both have remarkable stories, but I think we'll dive in with you first, Rose.
Okay.
So I'm just going to, how'd you get into running? I mean, very basic question.
I was always fast and I loved running. I grew up in Southern California and I'd sprint everywhere, jump over everything. And I saw the 1968 Olympics on TV when I was 9 and I saw Bob Beamon win the Olympic gold medal. I don't remember any of the rest of the Olympics, but when they were doing the national anthem, I stood in front of the TV and just cried and said, that's what I want to do when I grew up. And that has been my mission ever since I was a little girl.
Wow, that's amazing. So, you don't just become an Olympian.
No.
And you took a kind of circuitous path to getting there. So just kind of run us through.
So, ironically enough, 40 years ago, in 1984, was my very first Olympic trials. And I competed in 3, 84, 88, 92, and did not make the Olympic team. And the Olympic trials is the top 32 in the United States go to that. So definitely felt a little bit like a failure because that was the goal my whole life. But I'm a national champion. I'm a world masters champion. I was All-American at Cal State Northridge. I guess if you go back a little bit to when I started, when I could beat all the boys on the street that were high school boys in 8th grade, my dad took me and signed me up for a track team. And, I didn't want to. I was extremely shy.
Which is hilarious because I know you.
Yeah. Oh, you guys. Through sophomore year in college, I could not even raise my hand in class, if you can believe that, without my heart going 180 and my armpits. Really? Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I do not want to be that shy girl. Like, I took speech classes to, get out of that, But anyway, yeah, so I went out. My dad threw me out there. I said, Dad, don't make me run in front of anyone. My dad, get out there. And I beat all the girls in the 100. And had I lost that day, I would have been humiliated, I'm sure. But that became the start of it. And then I started the track team at my high school because we didn't have a girls' track team.
You started it.
I started it.
So you were an organizer from the get-go.
I was the first girl on the boys' team. And then Art Venegas, who was my Spanish teacher, who became a great coach at UCLA and has produced several Olympic gold medals in the throwing events, he said, you need to start your own team. And then he was a great mentor of mine. He basically said, you're good. You have to be developed. And he was responsible for me getting into Cal State Northridge as a walk-on.
And we should say, what your specialty has always been the 800, right?
Well, then I was a sprinter. I ran the 1, the 2, the 400, the long jump. I came into Northridge as a 400-meter runner. Okay. And my freshman year, our coach took us to UCLA to the physiology lab, and they did a muscle biopsy in my right quad, took a little piece out of it. And basically it said I was 65% fast twitch, 35% slow twitch, and you'll never beat the Russians and the East Germans, so you're now going to run the 800 meters. And I'm like, I just want to beat that girl at Cal State LA.
Wait, hold on. They did a biopsy on your leg to determine which event was better suited for you.
Exactly.
There's something I
This is you guys. This is during the Cold War.
I know. I was going to say, and this isn't a couple of years ago with sports science and sports medicine being where it is.
Yeah, no, we don't do that now anymore. I mean, I can tell from my athletes when I evaluate them what their percentage is. I'm not as scientific as taking a muscle biopsy, but I can tell whether if it's an 800-meter runner, for example, if they're more of a sprint-based, and so therefore they need 65% anaerobic training, or if they're more of an endurance person, 1,500 down to the 800, they need 65% 60, 70% of aerobic capacity as opposed to anaerobic. So, and when
There's science.
and when I got this one, she said she was sprint based. I thought, okay, going to train her like an 800 meter runner, because she definitely needed that endurance, specific endurance for a sprint based 800 meter runner to help her not only improve on her leg speed, but also for her to be able to run the rounds, to like run 3 races in a row, and not only finish strong on 1, but 3 she has to be able to do.
Yeah.
So that was important to get her ready for what she's about to do.
Again, we'll get to a little bit more of the particulars, but so you were certainly an elite competitor. You may not have made the Olympic team, but you somehow got into Olympic administration. You got into USA Track and Field kind of from a different perspective.
So in '84, again, along with my first, 40 years ago, my coach said that I needed to go to the USA Track and Field. At the time, it was called TAC, the Athletics Congress. But you need to go, and because I had very strong opinions about drug testing, and we didn't have it at the time. And I knew athletes who took drugs, and I thought, I'm competing against them. Also, at that time, the IAAF, it's now called World Athletics, they said that all of the NGBs from all of the countries need to have out-of-competition testing, and we weren't doing that. And so
An NGB, just for folks who don't know, is a national governing body. Every Olympic sport has one. So USA Track and Field is the NGB for track in this country.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, if I start to do acronyms.
Oh, it's okay. Sports is nothing but acronyms.
So yes, I went on a mission to find out why we don't have that. But I also was extremely, like I said, still very shy in 1984. And my roommate was an Olympian, and she left after the first day. And she says, I'm never coming back. And I went into the Athletes Advisory Committee meeting, and it happened to be an election year. And they were electing athletes to represent different, like the sprints, the middle distance, the long distance, to represent athletes for the whole United States. And I really wanted to get that position because I wanted to figure out how to affect change. And before they had the elections, while I'm there, I walked into an executive session of women's track and field, which is what I'm chair of now. And it was a closed session, but they didn't throw me out. I'm listening, and I'm just overwhelmed with all of the things going on and the facets of USA Track and Field, and how do you affect change, and women in there, and also Brooks Johnson, who just passed away, one of the greatest coaches of all time, has been a mentor of mine. But the women at that time were probably my age and now, and they took me under their wing, and they said, this is how you do it. You just don't go into Athletes Advisory Committee and complain. You actually, have to pick and choose your battles, and then you get the athletes to support that battle. So in my case, it was drug testing. Okay, support, let's have testing and be in compliance with World Athletics. And then you go to women's track and field and have them supported, men's track and field, youth, athletes. So I did. I got it passed. I went around and got it passed through everybody. And then on the floor of the convention, the last day, it passed. But just to go back to famous Willie Banks, great Olympic triple jumper and gold medalist, he was the chair at the time. And they were going to elect Robin Campbell to the position, who I knew she left 5 days ago, and she's not coming back ever. And I raised my hand, and I remember my heart was beating, and I was sweating. I go, she's my roommate, and she said she's never coming back. And they said, should we believe this woman is what he... And so I got elected. And then from 1984 until now, I've been in a leadership position and an elected position within USA Track and Field.
And so your position now is? I'm
chair of women's track and field, and that position is up at the end of this year. December is an election year.
Okay.
So I'm, as women's track and field chair, I oversee everything that has to do with track and field, the competition. I'm the competition meet director for our Olympic trials, our national championships in a non-Olympic year, our indoor championships, our U20 championships, and so everything that has to do with the track and road running, and that is in a different committee.
Wow.
Talk a little bit about how you might be looking forward to Paris in a different way compared to being the coach in Tokyo.
So before Alanah, my athlete, qualified, I was invited to go to Paris, and it basically as a support role. Like, I don't have any credential accreditation. I won't be in the village working like I have been the last 3 Olympics as a coach, but I'm going there to support the athletes. And I did this last year in Budapest for World Championships. Absolutely loved it, because the athletes, at least 50% of them I know for so many years. There's a lot of new kids on. Maybe I know more, like 70%. And they think I'm supposed to be there anyway. When they made the team, we're going to see you in Paris, coach, and I'm like, and I didn't want to say, or last year, Budapest, I go, I'm not going. And then finally my husband says, you should go, Rose, so I'm very excited. I'm going with one of my dear friends. She was the head coach in 16 in Rio, and she was an assistant coach in London with me, and we've been roomies along the way as coaches. And she's also the director of track and field at Ole Miss. And then the head manager that I had in Tokyo, she's coming too. So it's going to be the great sleepover in Paris. So I really want to crash that party.
It's too late for us to get tickets.
Come on.
I don't think so.
So I was excited to go in that role, and the hotel that I'm in is the hotel where all the personal coaches are. So that I'll be around the athletes a lot. I'll be able to go to the High Performance Center, the USOPC, because I'm accredited for that. So I can go watch workouts. And so that's that role. Then, behind the scenes, I'm coaching Alanah. And did you want me to get into that? Or
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So.
Okay. First off,
you talk to Alanah first.
Alanah, you were an athlete at UTSA. Yes. You're from Australia.
Yeah.
How the heck did that happen? I mean, I'm ever so glad it did.
Yeah, honestly, it's blessings, guys. So in Australia, I started college over there. College is not associated with sports. So when you have sports in Australia, it's outside of college. So you pretty much have supporting, it's different. So it's 2 separate entities kind of thing. So back in Australia, I was working, studying and training just to support myself, because there's no sponsorship or anything scholarships like that.
Like the US.
The US is on a whole nother ball game. I tried to do the whole work, study, train thing in Australia, but I was just getting burnt out as an athlete. There's only so much you can do, and I'm a very independent person. So I want to do it myself. My parents are very supportive, and they were there to help me. But at the end of the day, I'm when I turned 18, I was like, I want to do this on my own. If I need your help, I will ask. But I'm a very individualized person if I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it on my own. So pretty much I tried to do the whole work, study, train thing, and was burning out as an athlete. And then one of my best friends was actually coming to UTSA, and he was on the phone to one of the coaches there, Kareem Street-Thompson. And he was like, hey, just have a chat to Kareem, hey, say hi. And the next minute I'm talking to Kareem, he's asking all my stats, all my times. And he was like, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Get my, let me get your number. Let me get back to you. So he has a talk to Aaron Fox, which is the head coach at UTSA. And before I know it, I'm on a call with them. They're offering me a full scholarship. This was usually school starts in August. I was having this call in June. So I was kind of cutting it thin. So I kind of didn't really think about college in America as a thing for me until I try to go through that lifestyle kind of, and realize that, you can't do this on your own kind of thing. So pretty much I looked at other schools, but because I left it so last minute, I couldn't afford to not come, move my whole life over to the United States without full scholarship. So I remember Aaron saying, Coach Fox saying, come for a year. If you don't like it, leave. He was so confident that I would love it, and so confident, that the atmosphere was for me, that I came. COVID unfortunately happened, so I stayed for another year, and before I know it, I was finishing my undergrad, and they offered me a master's degree. And when are you ever gonna, get the opportunity to do 2 degrees, all paid for? At the end of the day, sport, is very, unpredictable. You could get injured tomorrow. So having that education behind me was very important for me, because at the end of the day, you really don't know we just went through COVID, so you really don't know what's going to happen. Finished college. I didn't have the success as many athletes have. I was never an All-American. I never made it to nationals. I always made it to regionals. Did well at Conference USA at UTSA. I just knew that I had more to give after I finished college. I remember Mum, calling Mum, and I was like, Mum, I don't know what to do. Do I move back home? Do I continue the sport? there wasn't really a direct path after college, like, to go professional. There's not like a clear cut, line, especially because I didn't have the huge success as many athletes do in college. So that, there wasn't sponsorships, handing out my door at the end of college. So I remember Fox reaching out to Rose on my behalf and connecting me with Rose. And honestly, it's been the biggest blessing in disguise. Just to have, that resilience kind of learned throughout this college. And, I didn't have that huge success, so it kind of just kept me humble the whole time. And to now have the success I've had, so, now it's still mind-blowing to me.
That's amazing. So what was your reaction when Aaron Fox is saying, hey, can you train a hurdler?
So he calls me and he says, Rose. I go, Aaron. He says, I need a big favor. I go, okay. And I'm thinking it has something to do with USA Track and Field, like how do I get on the calendar, like logistical stuff. He'll call me for things like that. And he goes, I have this girl. We're in a new conference. He's very, matter of fact, we're in a new conference and we can't coach post-collegiates except for 1 day a week. Can you take her? I go, well, is she an 800-meter runner? No, she's a 400 hurdler. I go, Aaron, I don't coach the hurdles. I don't know. And he says, it's easy. It's easy, Rose. I go,
Sure.
Okay. But at that moment, I knew I could train her no matter what because I came from the sprint background. But I also have very good friends that are hurdlers, and they're hurdle coaches. They were Olympians, medalists themselves up in Austin. So I knew I was going to be able to get help. I also know a lot of really good Olympic hurdlers, like in the last couple of years that were on the teams. So I was going to learn the hurdles. And I'm still. Alanah's probably the best clinician so far. She prints out exactly. She's very number oriented, and she knows her step downs and her pattern. And
very individual, very independent person. I
Yeah.
guess. I would tell her mostly like this is kind of the numbers and things like that.
Yeah, and that helped.
You're speaking the same language.
Yes,
with a common goal.
Yeah.
For the last 4 decades, San Antonio Sports has dared this community to dream big through the transformational power of sport. For 40 years, we've inspired youth to get in the game, motivated San Antonians to live healthy, been a force behind places to play, and hosted events that impact. As we celebrate 40 years of dreaming big, we invite you to dream big along with us. To support our mission, donate today at SanAntonioSports.org.
But okay, so you took the wildest trip to qualify.
Yes.
So why don't you guys kind of shortcut it for us? How did you were on multiple continents,
Yeah.
days of competing, and why? Explain the sport a little bit about.
Well, we had to, what we were thinking was she has a better chance of making it on the 4x4 than she did in the hurdles because she was so outside of she wasn't on the hemisphere for 400 hurdles. And
to make the standard.
To make the standard.
The time standard.
To make the time standard or the rankings. So the rankings.
Okay.
So how you qualify for the Olympics is they have this very stiff standard. And the goal is to have 50% of the field. They have a desired field size. So in her case, it's 40 athletes. So 50% or so should qualify with the standard. And then the other 50% will come in on rankings. And the rankings are based on your last 5 performances. Okay, and that has to do with
not your best 5, but your last 5.
No, your best 5.
Okay.
Your best 5 in a calendar year.
Okay.
In a calendar year, sorry. And so you have your 5, and then you get a point value for how fast you run, but you also get a point value for what kind of a meet you're in.
So you want to be in the quality meets.
You want to be in the best meet.
Yeah.
Yes, and the hard part was she wasn't anywhere where I could get her in the best meets yet. I have some connections, but I'm not that connected, Like I tried to get her in some of these better meets. So we focused on the 400 so that she could qualify for the Olympics with the 4x4, and which we were very successful in doing that. She ran
the 400 flat or
400 flat. So
okay.
That's the start of the season. Our nationals for Australia, because we're a different season, is in April. So we kind of I had to go back for that. And we had to decide, do I do the 400 hurdles or do I do the 400 at nationals? And we'd made a decision that because we have a good chance at making world relays is where you kind of qualified, and we had a really good team, going into that for the Australian team. I had to secure my position by doing that at nationals, and then the World Relays was in May. So pretty much till May, my focus was the 400, all the way up to May. We did a bit of hurdle training, after, still during that time, but the 400
just so you wouldn't get rusty.
Yeah.
She ran 2 hurdle races. She ran at Baylor and ran great, and she ran a PR, 56.95. Her best was 57 flat from 3 years ago, I believe, right?
2 years ago, something like that, yeah.
And then she ran at Texas Relays, and she ran the hurdles, and she ran a relay, and she's, in the meantime, she's strong as heck, and she's running 51s, in practice and also on relay splits. And so she was very intentional on letting the Athletics Australia, I want to say Australia Athletics, but
Athletics Australia,
letting them know, what we're doing and keeping them abreast of it, because she's over here. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. We want to make sure she's in sight to them. So she does get selected for World Relays, and that is how you qualify the 4x4, the relays for the Olympics. So she had to go to the Bahamas, and she had to go.
Had to go to Bahamas. What a terrible place to be.
And this is her first international team as a senior team. Mm-hmm. She was on the World Under 20 team.
But in very short order, you went from, all over the place.
Okay, so
you go.
Well, so I got her into, I got to find her an agent too, and nobody will take her because she isn't make money and it's an Olympic year. But I call one of my favorite agents, and he's just, there's some that are good and bad and ugly. So I called the really good, and he says, no, I'm not taking anybody on, and I've got a 400 hurdler. And I said, well, could you just help her get into one meet? Like I'm sliding it along. So he gets her into the meet in Atlanta, Edwin Moses's meet, and she does great.
That's where Sydney McLaughlin opens up her opener, and she, runs her first one in 2 years. So just that in itself, being able to race against, a world, record holder is amazing. And that's pretty much, because after Bahamas, that's where, the first meet was. That was the first one we kind of, decided to go to, and I ran a PR. But I knew running that race, I was, I think, caught up that I was racing Sydney and taking that all in as it was, that I kind of finished that race, and I was like, Rose, I can go quicker. I can go so much quicker.
She wasn't even winded afterwards.
No, I walked off the track, and I was like, okay, so do I have another race tomorrow or what?
Yeah, she FaceTimed me, and she says, I didn't. She goes, I was caught up, and I didn't run as fast as I could go. I wasn't. So I said, okay, let's get you another race. So then we got her in the Bahamas. Bahamas was next?
No,
right?
So we got into Bahamas, but I wasn't comfortable going. I wanted another race before that. So we Bahamas was confirmed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And we did.
And then, honestly, we get mixed up. So I remember we had Bahamas, I think it was on the 18th of June. Yes. So that was
Sunday night.
Yeah. So the Bahamas was the 18th of June, and that race against Sydney was, I think, the end of May. So I had a week, I had 2 weeks or something, before that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, no, we need to get another race in. So we went back to Atlanta. It was a really small meet. It was a last chance meet for anyone that was a USA trials to kind of qualify for that. So it was a really low key last minute chance meet, and went there. And I think I dropped a second PB because I just knew it was.
And she won.
And I won the meet. And then that honestly got me prepared and confident that going into Bahamas, this is just a bowl game now. People are getting me in,
Yeah.
They were taking me seriously.
Each time they were. So then she gets to Bahamas, and I said, she had sent out emails to Madrid and Geneva, not Poland.
All of these other
meets.
Other France, everywhere. Anywhere I could try and find a meet that had good rankings, I was emailing them. And majority of them were saying, no, we've already filled up the positions already, because I kind of did leave it quite last minute. I did get confirmed with Geneva, and that was the only one that I kind of knew after Bahamas I was 100% guaranteed. Madrid was a wait list, but
I felt confident she'd get into Madrid. I just did. But I said, you know what? I'm sending you to Spain. I called Paul. I said, I'm sending her to Spain. She's going to be in Madrid. So you tell that meet director she's already there. She can run. And so I have some friends that have a condo in Madrid. And at first they said they weren't going to be there, but she could stay there. And then it turned out they were there, and it was wonderful because she had a family to stay with. And I said, if you don't get into Madrid, you're only an hour flight away to Geneva. You get on a plane and go to Geneva, but at least you were with family, with someone, staying for free. And then she gets into Madrid. And
I think the day before it was Madrid. I got the call, I think a day or two before.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out, okay, Geneva is the next day. So I was trying to figure out flights and things like that. So the race in Madrid was 8 p.m. So I ran that race. It was my first, time racing in Europe since, a junior. So that in itself is usually, takes a lot as an athlete just to kind of mentally get through and, climatize yourself through. But once again, nothing's unstoppable for me. So I kind of went into that race and I came second. I PB'd, which was still amazing. That was my
every race.
Every race, yes. So I PB'd.
Personal best.
Personal best. Yeah. Yes, personal best.
We say PR here.
Yeah. Personal best or personal record. So that was the third one in a row. I think it was actually my fourth one in a row because I think it was something like that, or third one in a row. Yeah, because I did one earlier as well.
Maybe fifth if we count the one from Baylor.
Yeah, we honestly
shows how crazy this is.
Yes.
Well, I remember it because it went just back to back.
And bottom line, it was, let's see, 5 races in 2 weeks on 3 continents.
It wasn't even 2. Yeah, it wasn't even it was 16 days. I did five races in 16 days in 5 different continents. Yeah, or 5 different countries. Sorry.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But you did it.
I did it. And then pretty much from Madrid went to Geneva. Geneva wasn't the race I wanted, and we weren't even confirmed for Poland. I remember finishing that race in Geneva. It was still a good time. It was still under a 56, which 55.9, I'll take it. Still gave me good points, for that world rankings. But I knew finishing that race that it wasn't enough. So I remember getting on the phone to Rolls and getting on the phone to Paul, who was the agent, and I was like, so what are the chances of Poland? Poland's only 2 hours flight from here. Okay, I can get on a flight tomorrow morning. I can leave right now if I need to. So hang up the phone, and Rose is on the phone to Paul. Paul's on the phone to the meet director, and literally within that moment, I think 10 minutes from him calling the meet director, lane 1 came available. The odds of that, and I honestly was like, I'll take anything. Anything.
I'll run
and
10 meters behind, and
I would take anything. Just because that Poland meet was a very high ranked meet, and I knew that
we needed it.
We needed it. Even if I came, top 5, it was just good points for that.
Yeah, she gets to Poland. Well, first of all, we tell her to spend the night there. Okay,
in Geneva.
Get a good night's sleep, and then there were options of 2 flights to Poland. There was an early one and a later morning one. I go, nope, get the earlier one. Get there, stay in a hotel right there at the airport. It's close to the track, and so she gets to the track and she's tired. Of course, you guys, she's been racing her little legs off, or her tall thin legs off, and so she's like, I'm just gonna relax, and I'm just gonna, I'm not worried. I just feel comfortable. I go, oh no, honey, we're not relaxing. I go, this is your Olympic final. We have just run the first round, the semifinal, and now this is your final. And we can't even simulate this in practice. So we have an opportunity right now. You're going to run this race.
Yeah.
And she won.
I won. I got the meet record. Yeah, it wasn't even
oh my gosh.
I wasn't even I remember just crossing the line and I was so relieved that I won. And then they come over with this banner and I'm like, what is this banner? It literally said meet record. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right. I didn't even know, I didn't even realize where I was. I'm still I think the biggest thing was trying to figure out what language we were speaking. Because I was staying in Spain for a few days, so I kind of got in Spanish, kind of gracias and things like that, and then went to Switzerland, and I was like, okay, I don't even know what language I'm speaking here. And then Poland, I'm saying gracias and stuff like that, and they're looking at me and I'm like, oh right, different language again. That in itself, I was like, what is happening? But yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Tell them about the Red Bull.
Oh yes. So when I was pretty much living off Red Bull, that's usually my pre.
Is that allowed for athletes at your level?
Yeah, it is. I know. I was a little bit worried about that when she said.
I don't have a full can. I usually have my pre races kind of half a can just to kind of sip on, have a little buzz. Sugar free. Don't want to get that sugar crash.
Right.
So I think that was my issue because I started with Madrid as, that's my pre-ritual. I'm not going to change what I kind of do. So I had a little bit of Red Bull. So I couldn't actually go to sleep that night till 2 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. So that race the next day in Geneva, I was running off 4 hours sleep. I remember getting to the hotel, and the hotel in Geneva, the bus was leaving straight away. So I didn't have time to go buy my Red Bull. So I literally was Uber Eats. Okay, what can I do? Can I Uber Eats it? Sweden is expensive. Switzerland's expensive.
Oh, Geneva's crazy expensive.
Geneva? So I was like, okay, let me just DoorDash or whatever, Uber Eats. It would cost me $17 to Uber Eats Red Bull to the track.
You only drank half of.
Which I only drank half of. Literally, I was thinking about saving it, but I was like, I can't take
totally
to the airport. So I was like, okay, that's
saving it.
Dude, we're working on your endorsement deal right now.
Yeah.
Where is Red Bull? Honestly, the amount of times I've name dropped them, I'm like, come on, guys.
That's fantastic. So now you will be going to Paris.
Yes, we got that confirmation.
In what event and when are you running?
So we got into the 400 hurdles. So my pet event, my love. So at the end of the day, we didn't, I did it all myself. It would have been nice to have the double, the 400 hurdles and the 4x4, but I'm happy with one. We can work towards the next relay thing.
You can't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Exactly. So we head to south of France the 21st of this month.
We leave the 20th, yeah.
20th, so we get rid of the 21st, and we're going there for a training camp, and then I get dispersed into the athlete village on the 31st, and I race on the 4th, the 6th, and then the 8th is the final. So definitely the goal right now is to get to the semi-final. That's the ultimate goal, and then the ultimate goal is the final. So we're just taking it process, at one at a time.
Sydney's probably going to.
Oh yeah, I've raced against Sydney, so it's no big deal. Like that's it. Like everyone's like, "Oh, you nervous?" And I was like, "But at the end of the day, I just raced against her. Yeah. I just raced against all the Europeans in Europe. I raced against all the Jamaicans and stuff in Bahamas. Like I've got that kind of nerves out. Yeah. Now it's just, I think the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is my family's coming over. I think that in itself is like, I get to run in front of them. And that's like just the biggest thing for me.
Well, I think if this points to the complications that, we as, people who just love the Olympics and watch somebody, every 4 years or something, do something. It's an entire life, and there's a lot of planning and cross-planning and training, and so much goes on behind the scenes to get that athlete at that start line. It's remarkable.
And that's, like I think Monday, when we found out the official announcement, it was emotionally draining, because it's just like anyone that has been a part of my journey reached out, and I literally rocked up to training. I was like, I am emotionally exhausted. And I didn't realize how much it takes out of you, and how much, you've touched people's heart throughout the journey, or had some kind of part in them reaching out to me. People were always like, "Oh, I'm sorry, do you remember me?" Or like, "I'm sorry they're reaching out." I'm like, I appreciate it, but like, I'm going to take my time as well to get through these messages, just because it is so exhausting, but it's so wholesome as itself. So like, I know when I get to that start line at the Olympics, I'm not doing it just for me and for my coach. I'm doing it for everyone, who's been a part of my journey.
That's remarkable. Well, you got a whole bunch of folks in San Antonio cheering you on for sure.
She's got to be incredibly proud.
I am so proud of her. I'm incredibly proud. I mean, Alanah, when she came for the first day of practice, I said, "What are your goals?" And she says, "I'm going to become an Olympian." I go, "Well, alrighty then. We got a lot of work to do, because we have work to do. Let's get going." But she's never wavered from that commitment and that dedication and that sacrifice. She's always early to practice. She's very business oriented from the get-go, and it's been honestly a pleasure to coach her. Her personality was going to mix well with my already athletes that I have, because I don't, I interview athletes, and oftentimes I interview the parents too. I couldn't bring them from Australia, but because it's a journey, it takes a village. It really does. And if you don't have people there supporting you in many ways, then it's not going to happen. So I knew that she had the support of me, and of course, John, my husband of 44 years, who's behind the scenes doing the math.
So
he until he found the road to Paris, he's doing the math by hand to see where she's
there's like a website
go.
dedicated for the stats and everything like that, but he's doing it all manually and trying to figure out every single person. I'm like,
and anyone who could go ahead of her, because once she was done with the whole round the world in 4 days, she now we knew she was moving into 32nd in the world, and they're taking 40. Okay, so. Then there was also the little bit of nervousness, and I think that's why when they came out with the official announcement that they're taking her, there's a lot of countries that don't do it like us. You finish in the top 3, you have the standard, you go. And if you don't have the standard and you get into that world rank, then you'll be invited that way. Well, some countries just don't pick you if they don't think you're going to medal. They don't think you'll make the final. Even though you are invited in with the rankings, and so there was also that little bit of nervousness. And then we were probably about a couple weeks ago, we were confirmed that she's going. They're sending me stuff to go to the training camp, Montpellier. How do you say it? You want to speak French?
No.
Montpellier.
I started doing Duolingo France, so we'll get there.
Okay. Oh yeah, now I got to do that.
Yeah.
I do German and Spanish, and now I got to do.
What a shame.
Anyway, we're going to the south. Right. We're going to the south of France. Okay, for 10 days to the Australian Olympic training camp, and then I also go in on the 31st, the same day that she's going into the village. I go into my housing. So no, incredibly proud of her. So I said to her, even that first day I go, well, if you make the team, she says, I am making the team.
That's
Love
what
the
it takes.
confidence.
I am.
Yeah.
That's
And
what it takes.
she keeps her journal. She writes her goals. She writes affirmations. She keeps track so she can see her journey. And all the sports psychologists say, don't type your goals, write them. There's something about the brain and writing them. And you write your goals, and even if they're out there, like this was out there making the Olympic team, but she knew she could do it, and she says, I am an Olympian, and she would write it. And actually tell the story about 4 years ago when you're on a podcast. Yeah.
So when I first came to UTSA, I think it was during COVID time, or I think maybe it was. So my coach, Jackie, at that time, Richards, she put together for her group. She got Delilah Muhammad on, a Zoom call for us. I think it must have been during COVID because everyone was on a Zoom call.
Yeah,
the Olympic
Delilah
gold
Muhammad
medalist,
is
the world record holder at that, and she
at that time, right?
Like that was someone who I looked up to massively. She's a big influence to 400 meter hurdles. I think everyone can vouch for her that she made this event what it is today, and all kudos to her. But we were sitting on a Zoom call with her, and she talked to her journey and things like that. And then at the end, it was like, okay, does anyone have any questions? And now people asking questions to her. And then as me being the person I am, I was like, I don't really have a question, but like, I'll see you at the next 2024 Olympics, Delilah.
Oh, yes.
So I spoke it into existence, and I am here today. So unfortunately, she's not there, and kudos to her career. But everyone I think can vouch for her in this event. That without her, this event wouldn't be what it is today, and have the talent that it does. Because 400 hurdles, I remember when I was growing first, starting athletics, it was definitely an easier event to choose because most people kind of did the 400, and if you weren't really good at 400, you kind of just did 400 hurdles. Now you have to be the best at 400 and 400 hurdles, and I think that in itself is just, Delilah has set that standard for everyone.
Yeah, that is for sure. Well, you both are, remarkable athletes, and you're both Olympians. you got there through the coaching ranks and through the administrative ranks with USA Track and Field, and you're going as an athlete.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable story for both of you. Really, really cool. Oh my goodness. Okay, so
she's fangirling right now.
I am.
You're like calming it down. You're like breathe.
And anybody who knows me knows I'm a track junkie. So this is like my. This is super
I brought
fun.
Mary to the trials in 2021.
You love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's my next goal is like to go to the US trial. I haven't, it's
They're
everyone
amazing.
says it's better.
Remarkable at Hayward Field, and it was great. Anyway, we always close our podcast with the question of what does the power of sport mean to you? Because the power of sport is the mission of San Antonio Sports
To transform our community.
through the power of sport. So I'll ask you that, Rose.
The power of sport. Well, it took me from being a shy little girl, from Southern California, one of 6. Both parents were alcoholics. Nobody in my family went to college. None of my friends went to college. It took me to college, and it took me into the career that I have, which, it wouldn't have happened without the power of sport. And I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities I've had within the sport, as a athlete, as a coach, as an administrator, as a meet director, and I still love it. I absolutely love it. I'm now starting to coach at TMI, girls cross country, and I love that. It makes me so happy going in every day, when I pull in the gates there. So I'm very, very blessed to be able to do what I love. And so sports have been a part of my life, my whole life.
That's great. How about you?
I think the power of sport, growing up, so I grew up in a country town in Perth, WA. So I think for me, sports is about community. I think growing up, it was any sport and every sport the community, provided, and definitely developed that sense of community. It's also obviously led me in the path to to here and around the world. So sports, lets you travel the world and meet extraordinary people. I don't think I would have met the people I've met today without that and the community I've created. So I think just having, that kind of sense of belonging and sense of community is just outweighed.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
What a great way to finish. From both of you. Sport found your voice and that sense of community and all the things I love about sport. Yeah. And that's what we try to put out in our San Antonio community of how it can change lives every day. through impactful coaches, through watching athletes on TV, through a Spanish teacher. Right?
Yeah. Well, and it's not like everyone will make the Olympic team, but it gives you self-confidence. It teaches you how to set goals and work hard for those goals. And no matter what you do in life, you'll often talk to successful people and, when they were in sports in high school and sports, their coaches, the bond that they had with their teammates and how to work together, like you'll have that at the very least. But you might be one of the ones that, turn out, or you be a 3-time Olympic coach like myself, or a 3-time Olympian. This is the first one she has to go through 2028, I told her, because.
And then the next one after that in 2032 is in Australia.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I kind of have to go to that one. I kind of have to now.
Yeah.
That's
well,
fantastic.
we will all be tuned in, watching, cheering on Olympians from around the world and the incredible stories that are behind all of them.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, game on.
Thanks for joining us. And thanks to the San Antonio Express News for hosting us. As always, we'll put all of their bios and Alanah's fantastic social media in the show notes. So follow them, follow San Antonio Sports. And thanks again. Game on.